we do that, we want to have all the Hall of Famers that are here come up and sit in our Ring of Fame here. In 1979, Maxine Dilsaver Mellon, inducted in 1979. Gordon Dynakin, inducted in 1983. Mark Jensen, inducted in 1987. Jody Bartman, 1988. Debbie Christensen, 1988. Mr. Mark Lewis, 1988. Our own Donna Stark, 1991. Melba Reed, 1994. Bill Stucco, 1994. I hope I didn't mess up too much. Dale Frazier, 1996. Rick Steelsmith, 1998. Tommy Jensen, 2001. Gene Dillard, 2002. Loretta Hoffman, 2004. Maggie Blecka, 2004. William Hand, 2006. Joel Newman, 2006. Millie Schrock, 2007. Mr. George Keane, 2007. Gary Armstrong, 2008. Cindy Vatican, 2009. Mr. Dennis Neal, 2009. There we go. Mr. Joe Rocco, 2010. Mr. Chad Murphy, 2010. Mr. Billy Murphy, 2010. Mr. Waliczek, 2010.
My goodness, that was great, Rich. I'm going to stick real close to the script here because I don't want to miss anything on this. It's a distinct pleasure and honor to introduce Paul Waliczek as our newest Great Plains USBC Hall of Fame member. Paul was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas. He's first introduced to bowling at 12 years of age. Like many people a few years back, setting pins as a pin boy in the basement lanes of St. John's Catholic Church. A little bit of youth bowling in the Kansas City area, and as he approached college age, the decision on which university to attend needed to be made. And as a bowler, as he was a bowler, Paul had narrowed his choice down to two schools, KU and WSU. On a visit to KU, Paul asked about the college bowling team. Whoever he talked to did not know that KU had a college bowling team. Good for us, because he came to Wichita State, same question was asked, and whoever he asked responded, yeah, we got one of those. And that made Paul's choice easy. It was going to be a shocker. Paul, I want to tell you from the bottom of our hearts, for a lot of people in this room, we're sure glad that someone at KU did not know they had a bowling team. Paul started class at Wichita State in the fall of 1968, and it was at that time that he met Gene Pigg from Hutchinson, Kansas, who was on the WSU women's team. During Paul's sophomore season, the military draft beckoned. Paul chose the Army Reserve after serving a period of active duty. Also, this budding relationship between Paul and Jeannie became stronger, and they got married in the summer of 1970. He returned to Wichita State Lanes as the rec center as its full-time assistant manager and bowling coach. In the fall of '71, Paul became the rec center lanes manager and the bowling coach in the university's campus activity center, now called the Radigan Student Center, along with the coaching duties of both the men and women Shocker bowling teams. It was pretty apparent that Paul's creativity, ingenuity, and vision quickly became apparent with both the business operation and our intercollegiate teams. Paul is basically, ladies and gentlemen, the founding father of the current Wichita State Shocker Bowling program. Many of the innovative ideas that Paul established in the early to mid-1970s are still used in this program today. He was a tremendous recruiter, and Paul was a master team builder, both with his college bowling teams and his employment teams. Paul coached the Shocker men and women's teams from 1969 to 76 and took the 1975 Shocker women's team to Dayton, Ohio to the first ever national championship tournament ever held and brought back its first national championship. This team, made up of local and area talent, was the first national title in any sport at Wichita State. In 1976, he again took the women's team back to the national championships, this time in Oklahoma City, and nearly repeated, coming in second place to a very strong San Jose State women's team. As much as Paul loved the sport and loves the sport of bowling as a player and a coach, his real skill and strengths lay in the bowling center management area and his dream to be a bowling center owner. This dream started a journey for the Waliczeks that took them to Hutchinson to manage Countryside Lanes, which Rich has already mentioned tonight, where Paul had the opportunity to work and learn alongside one of the most respected proprietors in the Midwest, Lowell Pigg, who was Gene's dad. After managing Countryside, Paul was back in Wichita at the request of Tom Carter and Bob Blackwell, two other highly respected Wichita proprietors, to manage Skybowl. And during this 8-year period, Paul took over the ownership of Skybowl. It was also during this time that Paul, as a member of the Chilton Billiard team, Chilton Bending back then, won the coveted 1988 Team All-Events title at the ABC tournament in Jacksonville, Florida. This was the first all-Wichita team to ever win the Team All-Events title. Paul followed up the 88 ABC Eagle with another title right here in Wichita, some of you may remember, at the 1989 ABC Championships. Once again with the Chilton Billiards team, where they made history shooting the first 1,200 game and first 3,400 series in the 86-year history of the event. From there, Paul had center management jobs in Kearney, Nebraska, on the East Coast in New Jersey, New York, Virginia. But it was hard to get Wichita out of his blood. So when Frank DeSocio called with the opportunity to come back to Wichita in the late 1990s to be involved in management jobs at both West Acres Bowl and later Countryside West Lanes, Paul jumped at the chance. Although Paul has since moved back to the East Coast and is currently the owner of 4 centers, along with his business partner, Wichita still holds a special place in his heart. I recently asked his son Lonnie to give me some of his feelings about his dad on behalf of all 3 of the Waliczek kids, and the words that came out were these: humbleness, humility, selflessness, decency, steadiness, even temperament, positiveness, inspirational, follow your dreams, and of course, humorous. What has so impressed Lonnie that when he, as a PBA player, travel all around the country, people that he doesn't even know come up and ask him all the time about how his father is doing. How's Paul doing? Well, you know, Paul is charismatic. People who get to know him or work with him truly are inspired to do their very, very best. You don't want to fail Paul. You don't want to disappoint this man. Not only is Paul a great leader, but both he and Jean are tremendous parents. Their 3 children, Lonnie, Michigan, Brian, are 3 of the absolute nicest, most compassionate, intelligent, most well-grounded kids you will ever meet. Trust me. Cindy and I said to ourselves many times that we could only hope that we would be half the parents that Paul and Jeannie are. Truthfully, Paul is like Johnny Appleseed. Wherever he's been, he's made a positive difference in every life he's touched. It's my privilege to welcome my former boss, coach, my mentor, teammate, and friend, Paul Waliczek, to the Great Plains USBC Hall of Fame.
Good evening, everyone. It's extreme gratitude that I'm here tonight. I want to thank the Great Plains Bowling Association and all of its members for this wonderful honor. Bowling and the bowlers of Wichita have been such a huge part of my life, it's hard to express what this means to me. I want to first thank Gordon for that introduction, and then Mark Jensen for nominating me for this great honor. Gordon, you know, of course, has been a great friend of mine, and although we're 1,500 miles apart, every time we talk to each other on birthdays and holidays, it he always makes it seem like it's just yesterday that we last talked and that we've never left Wichita, Kansas. On one other little side note on that, that gives me an extra chance to call him every once in a while. I have these 3 coffee cups, one that says Wichita State, one Saginaw Valley, and the other one Kansas Newman. And the Sunday mornings after the national championships, I always have a cup of coffee from the winner. And so I drank a lot of cups from Wichita State. Mark Jensen, as you know, is an extremely competitive person. And it just riles him to no end when his teammates just kind of flag a single standing spare. However, when I do that, or used to do it with him, I'd come back and sit down on the settees and he'd just kind of look at me and smile and say, "We're still friends." I thank him for that, and I hope it was true. Now, before I get a little too far along, for all of you that were here last year and remember Chad's acceptance speech, I want to assure you that I am not that long-winded. However, Chad did ask for any time remaining he would like to have it. I have so many people here to thank to make this possible for me to receive this recognition. But before I do that, I do want to say first about the Great Plains Association. This is a magnificent bowling association. From the talent on the collegiate level, the national level, the international level, to the bowling industry leaders that reside here and give a guiding hand to bowlers all across the United States, and to all of who have been involved as national directors. This is truly a magnificent organization. Much of my history and the people I need to thank are members of great bowling teams that I've been lucky enough to be a part of. Now, of course, when I first did come down and arrive on campus and went down to the CAC bowling lanes, the first coach there was a good friend of mine later on in life. His name was Max Cook. Now, things were pretty loose back then, and Max did not travel on all of the road trips. When he did not go, our team captain was in charge, and Ron Penner was the team captain. I want to thank Ron for all those good years. College bowling is a learning experience, and most of our learning came on road trips. 2 other really great things came out of that life, out of those years. My lifelong love for the sport of bowling, and my lifelong love for my wife, Jeannie, while I met on the bowling team. And we celebrated our 40th anniversary last year in San Francisco, right after bowling the Nationals in Rio. Shortly after my years bowling on the team, I had the great fortune to start coaching the WSU bowling team. I started my efforts by working hard on recruiting. The first group I was able to have any success with came from the Wichita Eagle, and the bowling proprietors had a back to bowling edition called the Bowling Princesses. As I remember it, there was Margot Howell and a Cindy Hubbard, a Vicki Nyquist, a Cindy Sawyer, and a Lori Hughes. The next years, there was Wendy and Karma Mates were added. And out of that core of bowlers, they laid the groundwork to which developed the very first team to win the national championship at Wichita State. And of course, as Gordon had said earlier, every one of those women came up through the junior programs here in the Wichita area. With the women's team going strong, it was time to work on the men, which strangely enough was harder to recruit. Now, I'm not sure who gave me his name, but I decided to go hard after Gordon Vatican. The program needed his kind of talent. So he initially was not interested, and he wanted to concentrate on his studies. It took a little convincing, but he finally joined in. Mark Lewis was an easier Mark. He came from a family of bowling legacy and was born to bowl. And I think he thought we had cheerleaders. And with the 2 of them, the base of our men's team had started to take shape. The guys on the men's team and I thought being a part of the college bowling really made us ready for the big time. So we formed a team to try our hand at competing at local bowling centers. Now, to compete with the best, you had to join the Boulevard Classic League. Now, that was a group of exceptional bowlers, and if you needed a 5-member team to save civilization, you could find that team there. There was Lloyd Furr and Dwayne Martin, Alan Huffman, Rick Shore, Dwight Henry, Mark Jensen, Terry Clark, Norris Boys, Clyde Kimmer, just a whole host of others. We were all impressed with all of these guys, and of course, we thought they would be impressed with us. That just didn't happen. On our first night of bowling there, being full of myself and at least the guys I was going to bowl with, and so proud of our connection with Wichita State, I brought down a cassette recorder, and during practice, I started playing the WSU fight song. Now, I don't know if it was Rick Shore or Dwayne Martin, or maybe even Mark Jensen, but one of them walked on over and shut off the tape recorder. Turned around, didn't say a word, walked back to their lanes, and took us to school. So much for our entry into big-time bowling. Several seasons and many team meetings later, the Chilton Vending team was formed. Mark Jensen came on board, and then Rick Stilson. Now, that was a bowling dream come true to me. To bowl with Gordon and Mark Jensen and Rick Stilson, a bowler could not have been more fortunate. We only had Rick for a year and a half, but it was an honor, and I've been lucky to have these guys as teammates and friends. The time spent with the Chilton Vending team were heady times. Somebody was always winning something. Rick won the Masters, Mark Lewis was making the Olympic team, and Gordon was starting his streak of great college teams. The first national championship all events title in Jacksonville kind of slipped up on me. I didn't even know there was such a thing as team all events. The other guys knew, and I remember them standing in the background calculating the totals after each game, and they sure thought of me a lot wiser. They just didn't even tell me what they were doing. Now, besides our wives watching us that day, I remember only Frank DeSocia was in the stands watching the bowlings. However, 1 year later, the day we bowled a team event at the ABC here in Wichita, and we walked onto the convention floor and saw that full house jam-packed with Wichita bowling fans who stayed there and gave us support on opening day. That's an experience I'll never forget. For around 10 years, I had the privilege of bowling the Nationals with another group of great Wichita-based bowlers. Every year, either Billy or Chad, my nephews, or Brian, my son, would map out a bowling ball that would be just perfect for me, and we'd try again. We've had some good years, and there have been many fine bowlers that have bowled with us. The 2 years when I was able to bowl with my sons Lonnie and Brian, and Billy and Chad all together was especially extra special. And I thank James Hall for stepping aside and bowling with the other teams just to let that thing happen. This year, this team has been great to me, and every year when they announce at the Nationals I have an eagle, they clap and laugh while I have my moment. So thank you, Billy and Chad and Brian, Lonnie, James Hall, Rich Reynolds, Jen Murphy, Maggie Smith, and Corey Simmons for including me. And maybe next year at Baton Rouge is our time. As I said earlier, I have many friends to thank, but I also have a great family that without their support and understanding and patience, none of this would have been possible. Starting with Lucille Pig and husband Lowell, they were not too sure about me in the beginning. I thought I had it made it one time when Mom had introduced me as her favorite son-in-law. But then a few years later, I caught her introducing Wes, my brother-in-law, as her favorite son-in-law. I'm so conflicted. Seriously, Lowell and Lucille have been always there for me. Mom's been a constant in my life and someone I can always count. And thanks, of course, to Lynn, my sister-in-law, who laughs at my jokes and lets me share her voice. Thanks to Billy and Chad Murphy, it's been great to be there as you grow up, lots of good fun times. And I'm so proud of you guys on what you have done and what you're doing now for the sport of bowling. Wes and Amy and Rich, you guys are here. Some of you don't know who you are, but these three plus my son's Brian's wife Jill are much appreciated and loved family members who put up with a family who only talks about bowling at special events. So thank you guys for putting up with all of us. And I've got 3 grandchildren and a really cool niece that are sitting over here tonight, Olivia, Ben, Toby, and Hallie. And I have 5 grandchildren altogether. Brian's 2 sons, Lincoln and Jackson, are at home. And like any grandparent, I love spending time with them, and it's great to have those 4 here tonight with me. Lonnie and Mishka and Brian are here, of course, and most of you know them, except a lot of you may not know Mishka, who's our good child. And many of you may not even know who Mishka is. Mishka was a bowler once and bowled the youth team FIQ in Guadalajara, Mexico, and won the all events that particular year. Brian traveled here from Michigan to surprise me tonight, and I'm so happy to see him. Brian's also a child who spent his pre-teens and his teen years moving up with us after we left Wichita, so thanks, Brian, for helping all of that and make it work. And Lonnie stayed here in Wichita, and his home is our home base when the 13 of us all gathered together and in every holiday. So thanks, Lonnie and Amy, for your support. And then, of course, to my wife, Jeannie, who's been my constant supporter through all these years. I thank you for going with me to follow down those crazy roads and those crazy dreams. Ever the optimist, ever the pragmatist, ever the cheerleader and coach, she's my Hall of Famer. I'd like to congratulate the other inductees and know that you share the same feelings that I do of great honor and real humility. On just the final little note, you probably realize that I did not write all of that. It was kind of heavily edited. I did get a letter when I got the letter in the mail, Jeannie said, "What do you want to say?" And I said, "I think I'm going to start it off with, this could not have happened to a nicer guy." She, of course, took it off. But I do have to say, this could not have happened from a nicer organization. Thank you all very much.